Welcome to this week's GCN Tech Clinic. I'm flying solo today. Ollie's gone to have a little rest. So this is where we pick out questions that you've been submitting in the comments section down below, and then, we answer them as best as we can. So without further ado, it's our first question. This is from Miles Tones. They say, "Hi team, I've decided to upgrade my road bike to Di2, but that leaves me with a 2x11 mechanical Ultegra group set, which I'd like to put on my older cyclocross bike. Both a disc brake, but the cyclocross bike has a 2x9 speed Sora group set and a quick release axle. The road bike that he's upgrading originally has through axles. Will this be possible? I expect I'm going to need to buy a new wheel, but I'm struggling to find one that meets the criteria for the older bike and new group set. Could there also be problems with bottom bracket compatibility? Haven't looked into this." So finding a rear wheel that's quick release and 11 speed shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. And it's going to fit into the same spacing on the bike. The frame spacing isn't going to be any different. So I think that should be just a pretty straightforward case of finding most modern wheels, and your 11 speed cassette's going to fit on that just fine. In terms of the bottom bracket, I don't know what frame you're putting it onto, but there's a whole host of different bottom bracket types, standards and fitments, and loads of different ones to try and make different cranks fit on different bikes. Bottom brackets can be pretty cheap, so that should be an easy solution to get. And I would suggest doing this over just buying new stuff or even maybe a new bike, because I think it's good to reuse, recycle some of the parts rather than just buying brand new. And it's a simple job. I think it's well worth doing. Right, next question is from Henrik Hansen. They say, "Hi GCN Tech team. I'm considering going to the Alps on holiday this summer." Oh, lucky you. "And I'm going to do some epic climbs like Stelvio. An older carbon Columbus bike with Shimano Ultegra 6600 with a 5330, I think they mean 5339, and a 12 to 30 10-speed cassette. I think I need to swap to a compact setup as I'm not super strong. Say I've done Alpe de Zwift in 62 minutes. Is it possible to get front chainrings to fit my bike? I guess swapping to a smaller chainring won't do it because I have a short cage rear derailleur." That's a good point, yeah. "Do I need to change the cassette and the front cranks? Can I keep my rear derailleur?" God, lots of little questions added in here. Perhaps it's better to get another bike than to keep throwing money at the old girl. What are your thoughts on this? So in terms of getting easier gearing for your bike, I would do two things. I would get a compact chain set, which you can either get chain rings to fit on your existing crank, or you're going to have to spend a little bit of extra money and get a whole new crank set with those compact chain rings on. I would also double check what rear derailleur you have. So I think if you've already got a 12 to 30 fitted on there now, you might just about be able to squeeze a 32 on there, provided you can get the adjustment on the B tension screw. And that way you're going to have some super low gearing in order to climb all the climbs at a suitable pace and cadence for your level of fitness. If you don't want to have to buy a new rear derailleur because the cage is a little bit shorter, there's also mech extenders you can get, which sit between the mech hanger and the mech and just position the derailleur ever so slightly lower down so that you can fit your larger cassette. If you are going to replace the chain rings and the cassette, standard practice, replace your chain at the same time. So I think with relatively low investment into your bike, you're going to get the gearing suitable to enable you to ride everywhere that you want to do. And I don't think you need to splash out on a new bike just yet. Save that for another day. Next in is 3 questions, right, from someone called Roger Furness. So we're going to go straight through all 3. They say, "Hi tech team, I use a well-known GPS cycling computer with a speed sensor, and I've always wondered if I should have the circumference calculated automatically or manually. If manually, should I use the cycling computer manual or the circumference written on the tyre's manufacturer's box or website if stated, or calculate it by rolling out 1 revolution on the ground? Could we make a video so that we can see all the differences?" It's quite a specific video, so I'm not sure I'm going to make that just yet. But the difference between calculating the wheel circumference automatically or manually, automatic uses a combination of the speed sensor and the GPS signal that your head unit has got, and then it will calculate it automatically, as the name suggests, to know that how far you're traveling per rotation of the wheel. And it's pretty accurate, certainly more than accurate enough for 99% of people. Now, if you enter it manually, the best way to get that data is specifically from the tyres that are fitted onto your bike. Look on the manufacturer's website or the tyre box itself, because you need to know the outer circumference of the tyre that you're using. Best way to get that is from the tyre manufacturer. Now, if you want the most accurate way, then use what's written on the tyres. Don't try rolling it out and measuring it, because it's going to be room for a margin of error. So there you go. Next question from Roger says, hi GCN Tech team, torque values are stated on most components such as your handlebars and your stem, but not on bottle cage bolts. What torque should these be tightened up to? It's going to vary on different frames. I'm going to say in the region of 2 to 3 Newton meters at most, but whatever you do, don't start wrenching your bottle cages up super tight. If you're finding that even when you've done them up to 2 Newton meters and somehow or other they're still rattling loose, you could just apply a little drop of low strength thread lock on there to help them stop them rattling loose. Next question in is from Roger again. This is third and final question. Hi Tech team, I'm now commuting to and from work in the dark. Is there an optimum angle for the front light for not only spotting hazards, but also seeing far enough in the distance? No, there's not an optimal angle for this. You're just going to have to position it relative to what you find is best for what you want to see. Now, if you have opted for a slightly more premium bike light, it will have a beam pattern which is shaped to try to offer the best of those situations. So you can see something a bit further out, and it should have an area focused in front of you so that you can avoid things like potholes. So there you go. Pretty simple answer. Next question is from Dermot. They say, does climbing out the saddle, but in the drops, just like Pantani, negate the negative effect of CDA when climbing out the saddle compared to in the hoods? We've also said discuss nerds. Well, unfortunately, the biggest nerd of GCN Tech isn't here. Now, undoubtedly, if you're climbing out the saddle and you're using the drops, that's clearly going to be more aerodynamic than if you're out the saddle on the hoods, because you're going to be sat far more upright using the hood's position. But in terms of overall aerodynamics, staying seated and riding in an aerodynamic position is still going to be the best way to climb. Granted, if you're someone that is seated but sat really upright, climbing out the saddle and using the drops is probably going to be a better option in that instance, but generally it's accepted. Seated, aero position, fastest way to climb. Next question is from Lee Mason. Hi GCN Tech. Are we roadies being taken advantage of by the big 3 group set manufacturers? Our mountain bike brothers can choose different brake and shift levers, while we're stuck with just one manufacturer. The SRAM electronic upgrade kit for 12 speed is £400. Now if I wanted to do this on a road bike, it's going to cost considerably more. And they say surely the big 3 manufacturers can come up with a solution. Well, I don't think there's a need for a solution, because the combined brake and shift lever, the STI lever, was invented by Shimano a long time ago, and that was the solution to having separate gear lever and separate brake lever, which on a road bike isn't really the most optimum setup. We actually made a video about this a little while back titled Game Changers, and the STI lever, so incorporated brake and shift lever, was one of the biggest innovations that's shaped the entire road sport. Now, road drop bars in general work best by having a combined shift and brake lever. So I just don't think there's any way a manufacturer is going to try and separate those 2 components, because I feel like it would be a step back. I appreciate in terms of having free choice for brake levers and shifters, you haven't got that. But I think it's just a small price to pay for having a more ergonomically comfortable and ease of use component on your bike. Right, on to our final question for this week. It's from Didi Ree, interesting username. They say, hi Ollie, Alex or Hank. In winter times, I only ride my bike on the Wahoo. Now I thought the chain doesn't get dirty inside, because if you're riding outside, so they're saying the chain doesn't get dirty when you're riding inside compared to riding outside, which makes perfect sense. But at some points, it feels like the chain lube is just gone, even when they've only just been riding indoors. They're just lubing the chain over and over again. Am I damaging my chain or cassettes? Well, there's no need to over lubricate your chain. if you're just riding indoors, there's not going to be any dirt, grit, grime getting on your chain. So start with it nice and clean, apply some chain lube to it, and it's going to last you a long period of time. If you do find it's a bit dry, there's nothing wrong with putting a little bit of extra chain lube on the top, but you certainly don't want to be drenching your chain in excess oil, which is going to make it inefficient and just create a big gunky mess on your bike. The best thing to do, apply 1 drop to each roller, backpedal the chain, wipe off the excess, and then if you get to the point of noticing your chain is sounding a little bit dry, just add 1 drop of oil to whatever lube that you choose onto each roller, wipe off the excess, and you should be good to go for another few weeks. If you're using a wax-based lubricant, gradually over time that is going to wear off and is naturally going to need topping up anyway. So there you go. Right, that's it for this week's GCN Tech Clinic. Sorry if I didn't answer your question. As always, be persistent. Keep commenting them in the comments section down below, and well, we might pick them out in the coming weeks. Right, over and out from me. Off to get some lunch. See you later.